What does his text mean?
So frustrating.
Maybe he's just not that into me.
She realized.
I've always been bad
How
at
can I
flirting.
get her attention?
I'm ready for
I
marriage.
just want somebody to share my life.
Is this relationship
going
anywhere?
anywhere? Modern Love Made Simple. This is Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman.
Welcome to Dates and Mates. I'm certified dating coach Damona Hoffman, and I'm here to handle all of the challenges you're having in love, as I have on this show for the last 7 years, and on 2 A&E Network's TV series, and for Match.com users or Match dating app users, and so much more. So no matter how you got here, I'm happy to have you, and I'm happy to be able to share what I know about love, relationships, sex, dating, all of that on today's show. You know, I have a question for you. If you're dating, wouldn't it be so much easier if we all had the ability to tell if someone is a match just from a glance? How much time and heartache would it save you if you could read your dates from the start like an open book? Actually, this is possible. And no, you don't even have to be psychic to do it. On this show, I will be talking to Susan Ibitz, the human behavior hacker, about how to know the real deal about your date just by looking at their profile or by what they say and do on a date. But first, we've got headlines. Today, we are talking about the new sexiest man alive and why people are so mad about him being picked. And the numbers are in. Which cities are the best ones for dating this year? Plus, are the topics in your dating profile inappropriate? We'll find all of that and more. Plus, we'll be answering your questions, including how to find a girlfriend who wants to date both you and your wife. And what's the best place to go on a situationship date? All that and so much more on today's Dates and Mates. Producer Leah is in the house and ready to do these headlines with me.
Hi, friends.
Hi, Leah. You sound like you've had your coffee.
I have.
So have I. So let's do this.
Dee's Dating Dish.
The new issue of People magazine has hit newsstands. And yes, they are naming the sexiest man alive. This year, it's John Legend. And some people on Twitter are kind of turned up about it. Turns out not everyone is as excited as I am about John Legend being picked. I think this man, who they are calling the king of all wife guys, is a perfect pick. He's gorgeous, first of all. He is also extremely talented. I mean, have you heard his music? And P.S., he is an excellent partner to his wife. He is an excellent father. He is out here like repping for the marriage-minded men. Why people gotta hate, Leah?
Honestly, he's so perfect. And I don't know why there's so much hate. Like, he's so much better than Blake Shelton. So
That was my death rattle for Blake Shelton. I don't know which was worse. Adam Levine or Blake Shelton. Like, I know The Voice is really huge, and it's a show I used to really,
oh my God,
really
maybe
dig
they're
and
just
watch.
going through all the Voice judges.
But I was just like, no, like they just must have a really great publicist.
I will say that, like, I did go through my Adam Levine phase, like high school. Oh my God.
Oh my
Songs
God.
About Jane era, Adam Levine. So top notch.
I just feel like just from his performance on the Super Bowl performance alone, that's enough for him to just be scratched off the list for forever and eternity. Like, that just shameless, like, taking off your shirt and showing that your entire body is covered in
I feel like that's what people expect out of Sexiest Man Alive. So maybe, like, that's why they're rioting over John Legend.
John Legend's too classy. This man has an EGOT, for crying out loud. An Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Like, there's a handful of people alive that even have that many awards, let alone those specific awards.
Yeah, totally.
But I like that Chrissy has jumped in, and people have just taken this to the nth degree, saying like, oh, it should be Idris Elba, and then putting up pictures of Idris with like a 1996
next
picture.
to like a 1994 picture of John Legend. And unfortunately, John Legend did look like the most nerdy I've ever seen him look in my entire life.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you something. As a married lady who is with someone that may be on the nerd spectrum. I think nerds make really great husbands, as Chrissy Teigen has found out. But I mean, he's sexy. He is undeniably sexy.
Oh, totally.
So I think people just need to back off. No matter, it's like such a blessing and a curse to be named the sexiest man alive, because people are going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to throw stuff at you, and you just have to be ready.
Also, I'd rather it not be like Brad Pitt for the 80th time, you know?
Yeah, we're so over that. We're so over that, Brad. Get your life together, take care of your wife and kids, and maybe you can win.
Ex-wife.
Maybe you can, well, take care of your, thank you. He should have taken care of his wife. Obviously, he didn't.
Right.
He's addressing his alcoholism problem. He's trying to take care of his kids, so maybe he can be back on top again. But for this year, I'm repping for John Legend. Speaking of new things this year that come around every year this time of year, Wallet Hub, our friends at Wallet Hub have done their survey of the best and worst cities to date. I think we've covered this like for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it changes periodically, but essentially the cities, a lot of the same cities stay on top. A lot of the same cities are at the bottom. But if you weren't listening to this episode last year, I'm going to tell you what this year's results are. If you are in Atlanta, you're keeping it hot and Hotlanta. That is, according to Wallet Hub, the top city for singles. Denver, San Francisco, San Diego, and Portland rounded out the top 5. How do they come to these numbers, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. They look at the economics rank. Like, how much does it cost to go on a date in this city? They look at fun and recreation. How fun is it to go on a date in the city? And then they look at dating opportunities. How many people here are single and how many people are already coupled up? So according to that, my city of Los Angeles, number 7, we could do worse. But then they really broke it down into some other smaller cities. And Glendale, which is not too far from me, was almost at the bottom of the list, followed only by Pembroke Pines, Florida, which I've never heard of. I'm sorry for all my Pembrookies that are listening, and Pearl City, Hawaii, which leads me to think we're in Hawaii. If you're in Hawaii, isn't that good enough? What do you think about these rankings, producer Leah?
Okay, well, I mean, I could see Pearl City, Hawaii, because isn't that like an army base?
Yeah, but you're in Hawaii.
Right, totally. Right.
I
Go
guess
have fun
yeah.
in Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah, the ranking for singles was pretty low there.
Pretty
the
low.
Dating opportunities rank as compared to, it was like 175 as compared to Atlanta where it's 3.
Right.
But people ask me a lot of times, they ask, are there certain cities that are better to date in than other cities? But then I also hear from listeners that say, my city is the worst city to date in. Like, it's so hard to date.
And it's
in
always
New
from
York or
somebody
Los
who
Angeles.
like lives in Los Angeles.
No, it's not always though. Like people in LA love to talk about how hard it is to date here. And we're number 7. But I hear it in New York. I hear it from people in Chicago. I've heard it in Atlanta as well. So maybe it's not so much about the city as it is about the way that you are approaching dating in that city. I get it. You know, it's Wallet Hub. So the dating economics is a factor. It is more expensive to date in certain cities than others. But another reason, producer Leah, why I say do the 1 hour, just do drinks or coffee or ice cream or something really low commitment for the first date. Because you can't be spending all this money on a dinner date. If you're
Right.
you're in a market like Los Angeles, 177th in the economics factor. Speaking of haters, if you are on a dating app, there's some topics that you may want to avoid mentioning. You know how on Hinge and different dating apps they prompt you to answer different questions? Well, it turns out people are answering these questions in a pretty provocative way. According to GQ, they're saying we should not be talking about things like Jeffrey Epstein's death and conspiracy theories around it on dating apps. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about politics, and people are using these headlines to give their dating profile a little umph. Now, I believe that there are certain topics you shouldn't discuss on a first date and definitely not on a dating profile. But I can see pros and cons to weeding people out with topical headlines. What do you think, producer Leah?
I mean, not to get too into the politics, I do like see how it would be awkward.
It's not hot talking about Jeffrey Epstein on
Definitely
a dating profile.
not.
I just
that would
think-
be a huge turn off to me.
Mm-mm.
But like, I don't know, a provocative question might be interesting.
Here's what I like about it. I like that your dating profile needs to evolve. Like I've said on the show before, people have this set it and forget it mentality. Like, oh, I did my dating profile 2 years ago, and I don't know why I'm not getting anyone who aligns with what I'm looking for. And you have to think of your dating profile as a living document. It has to be continually evolving and updating and growing and changing, just like you are. But when you have something that's current in the news, other than Jeffrey Epstein's death, that can show, first of all, that you are keeping current and that you care about what's happening in the world. And also that your profile is current. Because sometimes I'm on here swiping for clients and I'm like, I know this profile has not been touched in 2 years and this person is not even active on the site because it feels so out of date. So according to this article, it actually can get you a higher response rate. Even though it may be a huge turnoff to some, it could be something that engages the right kind of person.
Yeah, actually, I just remembered this one guy on a dating app that I saw like a year ago. And I don't think he was too political, but he still had like an engaging question. It was, I hate ice cream, debate me. And like that got him lots of responses. So I don't know, maybe that's just another way.
I think that could work for a guy. I think if a girl was like, debate me, they'd be like, she's too aggro. I would jump into that debate just because I've discovered I'm lactose intolerant, but that's a whole other topic for a whole other day. I have discovered that there is a really good coconut ice cream that is at my local ice cream shop. So I can have my cake. I can have my cake flavored ice cream and I can eat it too.
Wow.
And so can you. If you're listening to Dates and Mates in just a moment, we will be back with Susan Ibitz of the Human Behavior Lab. Y'all, let me tell you, this woman knows things. She can tell you how to read the face of your potential dates on a dating app, how to read someone in a first date setting, and also how to tell what their body language is saying to you when you've been missing all of these signals all along. This is one episode that you have to stay tuned for. And don't forget to do 3 to keep it free, subscribe to the show, give us a review, and share this episode with a friend. And it's that simple. You do those 3 and you'll keep Dates and Mates free for maybe 7 more seasons. We'll have more Dates and Mates in just a minute. I'm here with Susan Ibitz, who is a longtime professional in face reading and behavior hacking. Susan actually started her career negotiating hostage situations and analyzing faces for the police. She literally wrote the book on face and behavior reading. No, seriously, she was the first person to create a training program that incorporates things like statement analysis in linguistics and micro expressions and body language. And now all of that juicy info can actually be applied to dating. And today she's going to tell us if the person that you're dating is really the person that you're looking for. Please help me give big smooches to Susan Ibitz.
Hi, Damona. How you doing? Thank you for the intro.
Oh my gosh, this is such a valuable skill. I don't know how you go through life like without just analyzing every single person that you meet. I imagine that's happening on some level, but I want to impart some of that wisdom and get some takeaway for our listeners today.
Who told you that I'm not going through life analyzing everyone? Yesterday, I hired a handyman to do work on the studio in the office. And like, oh, I get it. And I start talking to him and he's like, oh, I feel like you know me. Oh, you don't have any idea how much I know you already.
But as these folks that are listening are beginning new relationships, or they're meeting people for the first time, or even let's back it up to we're here swiping on dating profiles. Can you actually tell just by looking at someone's face on a dating profile if they are a good match for you or not?
How do you think I get my boyfriend?
Sounds like there's a story
Okay,
there,
by
Susan.
I did an experiment, and I wasn't the first person to do it. I was thinking like a year and a half ago, where I was analyzing profiles on dating sites. So you have two ways to determine how the person is: by what they write and by what their face is telling you. So I start on the weekends for fun because I was single at that point. An experiment called Victorian Secret. So I was giving keynote speaking and classes in sex shops and people who is matchmaker, and they bring me so I can read the profiles. And I found out that people who doesn't use I on their profile, like for example, love to hiking, love the outdoors, love to go for food, they don't use I love, I do, I want. There are people who hide in things more than the others. So if you find a profile who says, I love to hike, I love this, that is a good sign. But if you don't find the word I on a profile, we having a problem. And the other thing is you can
Wait,
determine.
hold on. Before you go on, because I think this is very profound, and people ask me all the time what to say in a profile to be attractive. If you say I too much, though, couldn't that be a problem as well?
Well, maybe for the normal I, for me, when I have friends, believe me, my friends call me. The first thing they do when they found a match is like, Susan, here's the picture, here's the profile. Even though I have the password and access to most of my friends' profile, their ones are single. Um, you, it's a thing like too much I can be kind of narcissistic. But if I telling you what I love, if I telling you what I like, and I don't put myself there, identify with the things that I like, that must be a problem. They're constructing from not reality what they want you to think about themselves and know what there really is going on. So if I says, I love to read on the weekends, and if I says love read on the weekends, is maybe, oh, I want to look like intellectual, or I want to look refined or something like that. That's the difference.
It's
So
not authentic. If
you
you're
need
not
to
owning
measure.
it, and if you're not saying you're not owning the experience. It's something that you're putting on to try to be attractive.
Correct.
Ooh.
You need to own the experience by saying, I want to. When you're talking about the things that you like, you need to own it. But if somebody is talking about the things they like and they're not owning it, that is a big warning that you need to pay attention.
Okay, so now let's talk about the face reading. And I know that through Human Behavior Lab, your company, you actually provide reports for people, and you ask for a photo of a face in a neutral position, a photo of the face smiling, and the right ear and head and the left ear and head. So you're getting a 360 there. But for the dating, let's say you're just browsing on dating apps, what can you tell from someone's dating app photos?
Depends on what you're looking for. You can determine if somebody's going to be generous with their money, they're going to be a good father, good husband, good partner, or an amazing sexual experience for the weekend.
Oh, how do we know this? How can we tell? Other than, of course, hiring you to do a full analysis. How can we tell when we're swiping at first glance?
I guess what you want to know, how to know that a person is going to be a really good sexual partner.
Girl, you read into that. I'm more actually, I know some of my listeners are like, yes, please tell us. I would love to know that. But more importantly, I would love to know if there are any red flags. Like sometimes they say someone who is a sociopath or psychopath may have certain facial expressions, or their eyes may look in a different way. What does your research show on that?
Well, I will be really delicate with the sociopath, psychopath, and psychologist tendencies. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. So I will not gonna go deep there. What I can say is that we have wrinkles on the face, the wrinkles on the eyes, the wrinkles on the cheek, the wrinkles between the eyes. Those are wrinkles who has to do with empathy, has to do with the strength, has to do with intelligence, has to do with humor. If you find a person who is over the age of 30 and they don't have any empathy wrinkle lines, who are the lines like the women call CrossFit, if you don't find in a man any of those wrinkles, that is a huge sign, because that's mean that doesn't have empathy to others.
So you're
Another
talking
thing
about
is,
crow's feet like on the corner of your eye. If you have empathy, you would have basically created those wrinkles through empathetic facial expressions.
yes, when you hold an expression for too long, it's like laughing and smiling and going through pain. Those wrinkles get a GPS to your brain. So if you find someone who doesn't have any wrinkles who had to do with the empathy, with the smiling or pain, how you read pain on people's life. You see those lines who start on the tip of the on the bottom of the nose and go all around until your chin. Those are lines who has to do with pain and grieving. So if you find somebody who is over the age of 30 and they don't have any line who show that they went through life feeling things, that can be a person who is really cold and detached from feelings. So depending what you're looking for, in my case, I'm really a brainiac. I look for a person who is more about the brain than the feelings. I'm not a feeler. I'm not like, oh, I don't feel your pain, I don't cry with you, I don't want people who like, oh my love, how you feeling? Like, I don't care how I'm feeling, is how I'm gonna fix it. So it has a lot to do with you looking in a relationship. Most women look for a man who can listen and who can understand. So I would say, instead to concentrate on the wrinkles, go to the ears. When a person have big ears, is a good listener. When a man have ears that, for example, your head start in the two bumps where your hairline start, even though if you're bald, you can find two bumps on the top of your head, in your face and in your chin. So if you draw lines on the top of your ear and the bottom of your ear, and that ear fit your face 3 times and more, that is a person who has small ears. It's a person who's going to listen with their eyes, their visual, they need to see. That's the reason women, we pay so much attention how we look on a date and how our date look on. Now, most men have big ears. So if you grab the same ear and you try to make it match on the face and match 2.5 times or less, that is a big ear. That's the reason men listen and listen and listen and listen. And sometimes you get to your partner like, hey, dude, are you paying attention to me? Like, yeah, I listen everything that you says. I don't want to interrupt you. So men tend to be a better listening on the way they're going to get through what you're saying. They're not going to interact as much as women want, like asking questions or going back to questions. Now, if you find a man who have low distance between the eyelid and the eyebrow, is a person who's going to tend to interrupt. So, Damona, you're going to ask me like, wait a minute, I have a good listener, but interrupt. It's because their mind is going too fast and they try to captivate information as much as they want. And they're going to come back to you with a lot of questions. So a couple of years ago, I used to do couples like problems of coaching. And the problem wasn't they're not good communicating. They were communicating on the wrong way. Big ears are listening, small ears are visual. High proxemic, but that is the distance between the eyelid and the eyebrows, is if you have high proxemic, you see women tend to have high distance between the eyelid and the eyebrow. They need more time, they don't want to be rushed. Men tend to have low proxemic, they're like, do it now, yesterday, good, let's go for it. You never heard about a couple who's like, Saturday, 11:45 and he says, oh, let's go to get a car. And she says, like, wait a minute, we didn't do a budget, we didn't talk about it, we don't need to rush on that.
So I want
And
to
the shape of the
understand.
eyebrows has to do with that too. Sorry.
I want to understand, is this, it sounds like it's a balance between the way you have used your face throughout your life and also some innate traits that lend yourself to developing certain skill sets more than others. Am I understanding that right?
I've been studied twins, identical twins that are over the age of 40. And if you look on the pictures until the age of, I would say 16, 18, they have the same wrinkles. When you, to be clear, what you read on the face is features, who are the ears, the eyebrows, the chin. You study dimples. Where your dimples are located is where people get attention to your face, and you study wrinkles. So wrinkles has to do with experience, who have to do with love, pain, and grieving. The features are the intake, process, and express information. And the dimples is where people pay attention and how lucky you can be with certain things if you do face reading on the Asian way. I do it on the Western way, is more hardcore. So I don't
hardcore face reading. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, you have two kind of physiognomies. One, they're used by the Chinese to diagnose people with medical problems, and we have the Western one, who is being used for hostage negotiator, dating, lawyers, jury selection. Oh my God, this is way deeper. It's been happening for 5,000 years. It's not a lot of people who does face reading because it's complex, but you can learn the basic. So everything who happen in your face is a GPS to your brain. Micro expressions are a GPS to your emotions happening right now. And body language is everything that you want to conceal, but it's so strong that your body give you away. Emotion, hiding, I'm not connected, disconnected. So regarding face reading, if you hold expression, if you hold pain for a long time, that pain is going to start showing in your face, because your face become a map of the grieving, all the happiness you have. People who have a line on the top of the nose and the corner of the nose, that you see those wrinkles when people smile, that is people who handle things with humor. In your case, we was talking before we start the interview and says, oh, Damona, you cope everything with humor. You must be really fun to work around.
Well, I don't know about that. Producer Leah will can chime in on that or not. But yes, I do approach everything with humor, and you totally nailed it. Like you also said I'm a fixer. And obviously if I'm doing this show, I try to fix people's problems, but the way that I do it, like you said, with humor is absolutely it. So I would get a swipe right.
Well, you know what? If you're looking for someone, okay, there are two different ways that we date him. I don't know if you ever read George Miller, The Mating Mind. He's an author who talk about what are the difference between what we look in when we're in the 20s and we want to mate and have kids, and maybe when you're 40s and it's your second relationship or your second marriage and you're not expecting to have kids, or you already have your kids. So what you're looking on that person is different. When you're 20s, you're looking for the first perfect father and husband to go through the having a baby, getting the baby to become an adult, going to college, and maybe today it's really difficult, grow to be a partner in crime when you're in the 70s. But in my case, when you're in your late 40s and you already has been married, you went through all the things, and what you're looking is for a partner in crime. You're looking for different things. You look for intelligent, you look for ways to manage money, you look for ways to retire, you look for somebody who make you smile.
Let's give him that sexual compatibility element that we teased earlier.
Oh, now you want to know.
Now we want to know that you can see on the face too.
Well, I'm going to tell you two things, and I have my cheat sheets here. Libido lines are the two lines who go from the bottom of your nose to the top of your lips. So there are two lines, and some people had to really, really identify, and some people is like underdefined. So people who have wide lines, they like physical touch and affection. They tend to be more sexual.
Oh.
Now, when those lines are close together, they're more reserved. They can be hot, but they're going to be more reserved. You're going to need to wait to see. They're not going to be touchy and get onto you. Now, if those lines are undefined on the top of the lip, don't underestimate the passion, but don't expect to be recognized for their being sexy or being sexual. So they're going to be more like chameleon. Everything who is undefined on your face, like people who doesn't have thick or well prominent eyebrows, we call it chameleon. That is the kind of people who's like, oh, they're going to be hiding on the back and waiting to see what happened. So earlobes are important too. So if you find a person with large earlobes who are really easy to define, in the case of the gentleman, don't see the earlobes when women have like long and heavy earrings. And by the way, we have three faces: the faces that we was born with, the face that we want to become, and the face the life give us. So if somebody do piercing and they want to enlarge the earlobes, what happen is they want to tell you that's how they're going to reflect themselves. So people with long earlobes who can be by piercing or natural, they notice everything. Good with details, they will remember everything, even the clothing, the colors you was wearing. So if you see somebody with big earlobes and you want to attract that person, make sure you pay attention to details and the color, and make sure to do this kind of question like, what is your preferred color? What is the, if you have a passion of a night of passion, what color you will like your partner to be wearing? So
Oh,
make sure to take notes.
wow. That is some
That
in-depth information, Susan Ibitz. I you touched on body language as well, and I really want to know what people can tell on a first, second, third date from the body language, because that's where it gets sort of confusing for a lot of clients, and what their comfort level is with touch or with just being in their own body on a first date may differ from what the other person is bringing to the table.
first advice. One thing that I see people doing on the first date is sitting in front of each other. When you sit in front of each other, usually it's a business date. It's not it's a business meeting. It's not a date. You want to create rapport. When I was dating, I always met the person on the bar. And when they asked, you want to be moving to the table? Only if we sat next to each other, but not in front of each other. Because when you put a barrier, it's more difficult to touch, it's more difficult to approach, it's more difficult to smell, it's more difficult to listen. It's really difficult to find a restaurant or a bar that is not too noisy. So if you're not sitting next to each other, so if you want to create like fast rapport, what you need to do is sit next to each other on the bar, on the table, or in a 90-degree, never in front. Don't put everything don't put everything in front of you who can be a barrier. It's like when women holding their handbags against the chest, that is a barrier. That is like, I don't feel comfortable. I want to run away from here.
I'm so glad
Another
you
thing.
said that, because I've said this for a long time, just in terms of building connection and everything that you said, that you can be close enough to touch if you sit kitty corner, catty corner, however you say it. I've said that for a while, Susan, but I didn't have the social science, the behavioral science to back it up. And so thank you for giving me receipts for my long-term dating, long
You know
time
what,
dating advice.
Damona? We are natural. We are born with this naturally. Dr. Matsumoto in 2008 did a study and find out that athletes who are born blind and the one who are not born blind, they have the same micro, micro, and body language expression when they lose and they win. So it's encoded in our DNA. What happened is, I'm going to give an example. You get your husband, take the kids to dinner, and you says, honey, Make sure you give the kids healthy dinner. Your husband says, okay, kids, we're going to go to McDonald's, but don't tell your mom. So what happened is we learn from our parents to hide emotions, to do white lights. And we tend to like, oh, tell your kids, don't put that face when your grandmother come with a lemon pie, even though you hate it, put smiley face.
Right.
So we tend to hide emotion. We tend to uncode. Can you imagine if we can get a kid who is between 5 and 10 years old and we help them to develop this way to communicate, to have human intelligence, will be unstoppable. So what you're saying is your sex sense as a matchmaker, as a person who's a fixer, who you perceive and you see, and what you say is naturally encoded in your brain. Now you have the studies showing that is true.
I love it. Thank you for giving us that info. So, I'm just to recap, everybody, don't sit interview style, and just like Susan said, don't have the barriers between you. But how do you know how can you tell if someone is interested in you? I hear all of the time from our listeners and from my clients. They'll say, "Well, I kind of liked him, but I couldn't tell if he was into me." And does it differ between genders?
I have a trick. I never ever pay attention to the body. I never pay attention to the hands, even though we're going to talk about hands, they're really important, is the feet. If you see a couple facing the feet each other, they like each other. But I used to go and the bar closed in Chicago. I'm like, oh my God, I know the bartender. And when I was bored in my house, I used to go to the bar and we played taps. Who's going with whom? What is the first date? What is going wrong? What is going good? And by the way, I was training him and he get better tips thanks to that. So Charlie, you owe me a lot of money. So we will start looking on the feet. If the people is facing the feet, because remember, Freud used to says, you can lie with your mouth, you can lie with your body, but your feet are gonna give you away. So pay attention to the other person's feet where they're facing. Even though, for example, you are in a bar and you both facing the bar when you just met. The first person tilting the chair or tilting the body to face you is the first one who give up on the attention and is the first one, oh, I like you. Wait for the second person to do the same action. So if the second person doesn't get the action, what can happen is more introvert, is more shy, feel like, oh my God, what I'm doing here, this woman is too hot, she's gonna dump me. Oh, this guy is too hot, he's gonna see that I forgot to wax my my legs. So there are another situation who can happen. Hey, never happened to you that you're Tindering or dating up at 10 a.m. in the morning, says, hey, let's go today for a drink, and like, shoot, I didn't wax, my legs doesn't show, like for a date, I need to hide it. So there are other circumstances, but in one point you forget where you're located, you forget that your conscience and your body is going to be facing. So pay attention to the feet. Doesn't matter the hands, the smiling, no. Pay attention to the feet. Another thing, if you're with someone and you notice the other person is nervous and doesn't give away and is like in this constrict situation, what you can do gently and asking permission initially is put the hand on the knee and says, hey, everything is okay. Do you want another drink? Do you want to eat something? Gently put a hand for 5 seconds on the leg and let it go until the other person starts feeling better. Another thing, touch the elbow to the shoulder softly. And a trick that I used to use when I was dating is like I touch the chest of the guy and like, oh my God, that is awesome, and take it away. Oh my God, that is awesome, and take it away, and touch the knee. And at the end of the date, even though I'm not a feeler, I'm not a toucher, I'm not the kind of person who cuddles or walking on the street holding hands, it was like, oh, you make me feel really comfortable. I really appreciate it. And at the end of the day, what happened is not what happened during all the date. It's not what you did, it's not what you say, it's how you make me feel. So if you're approachable, if you was warm to me, if you make me feel comfortable, because remember, we don't know what is going on with our dates until we start knowing each other and we can talk in a way that we can express those feelings. But in the beginning, doesn't matter how much expert you are and how much dating you have done, is a horrible situation because it's telling your story again. It's like controlling yourself. It's thinking like, oh, this person is gonna like me, not gonna like me, I'm too weird, I'm not weird, like what's going on?
That's, I love everything that you're saying, Susan, because this is the stuff that people don't talk about with dating. And it's so valuable and so useful because we're all out here like swiping by chance and second guessing what we're feeling on the date. And I'm so glad that you said it's about how they make you feel. I was just talking to a client yesterday, and I asked her about how this date went, and she's going down the checklist like, well, he was smart, he had a good job, and I said, but how did he make you feel? Because that's really what you should be paying attention to. We can do this on paper all day long, but if you don't feel right with the person, then it's not going to go anywhere. If someone is
It's not,
looking,
I'm sorry, you know what, it's not about who is the most interesting person on the conversation.
Mhm.
Is that person make you feel like nobody else is on the room? If I have a person in front of me who make me feel like nobody else is walking in the room, we are alone on the world, that is a taker.
mm, that is a really good way to look at it. Any final words of wisdom that you can share? You've shared so much, and I know you have a lot more that people can explore. And if they want to go more in depth with someone that they're dating, they can get an analysis at humanbehaviorlab.com. But any final words of wisdom as people are on dating apps and looking for the right match, how they can tell if they have the right person for them in front of them?
First of all, for personal experience, I like complex personalities, but I don't want a complicated people. We need to understand the difference. Every human, every human being is complex in their own way. Even though you think you're simple, you're a complex machine. So be true to yourself and identify when somebody's trouble and when somebody's complex. Second of all, you never know what is going on with the other person. My partner, we was for 3 months texting until we finally met. All my friends says, oh, he's dating somebody else, he's playing with you. You know what happened? He was going through a really difficult situation with a family member who finally died, and he didn't feel good to say it. It was something in my guts who says, you know what, he's not lying to me, something else is going on. So be aware who you are, your 5 confident people in your life. Dating should be private to the people that you can trust and can be neutral until you're sure who you have in front of you. Because friends always looking for the best of you, but nobody have enough maturity not to be biased because everybody put their own experience in your experience. So be true to your gut. If somebody's telling you that that person that you're talking is right for you, keep it private. Sometimes it's better to surprise your friend, like, oh, we have been seeing each other for 3 months, you didn't say anything, like, because it was my business. Because at the end of the day, you're the person putting the head on the pillow, and you need to be true to yourself. Another thing is, you have warning signs, pay attention. It's a lot of danger outside. That the reason is good to have somebody like you, Damona, who can lead us to be aware of the danger things. If somebody asks you for money, if something doesn't sit right, get away. Another thing, what I did when I was dating is I always have the first date on the same bar, and I knew the bartender. I even knew when he wasn't there. So if I'm going to the bathroom and if I need to leave for any reason for a call, I always make sure that he checked my drink, that he check, I'm going later, so he could check on my date and text me what's going on. Go to a safe place. Feel safe emotionally and physically is part of the date, because at the end of the night, we don't know what we're going to encounter. So be true to yourself, sometimes it's good to talk things with your pillow or people who is an expert on the field, and be true to your guts, because at the end we have that intrinsic instinct. Just follow that, doesn't matter how old you are.
Such great advice, Susan, and also such great information. I hope everyone at home was taking copious notes and will follow up with you to get their in-depth report at humanbehaviorlab.com. Thank you so much for being here, Susan.
Bye, girls. Thank you.
And now you have questions, I have answers, and it's time for our next segment.
Technically.
All right, producer Leah is here with me to tackle these questions. We have this one who comes to us from Instagram. This is from a listener who heard me on the Horrible Decisions podcast last week. If you haven't heard that, go check out Horrible Decisions. It's an awesome and provocative show. But this person says, my wife and I are seeking a third to be our girlfriend. What apps or advice could you give us in finding the perfect match? Ooh, producer Leah is coming in hot today.
Hot, hot, hot.
Hot, hot, hot. Okay. I could tell you there are some dating apps. Okay, so there's a couple different categories here. There's swingers apps, and there are apps for people that are polyamorous, that are more looking for a relationship. And then there is just straight up creeping. So I would say you're best off going, it sounds like, with the second. And this is apps that are either designed for polyamorous situations or that are open to polyamorous situations. I find, and I actually wrote an article on polyamory for BET.com. Y'all can look it up, or maybe we'll put it in the show notes on datesandmates.com. But I did a lot of research. I learned way more than I actually needed to know about polyamory. But the important thing was that many of the people who were polyamorous tended to use OkCupid as their app of choice. But the really important thing is that you lead with that info, because you don't want to be misleading somebody else who's thinking that they're getting a relationship just with you and then spring it on them on the first date. Oh, by the way, I'm actually looking for a triad. I want you to be in a relationship also with my wife. Like, that cannot happen on the first date. That has to happen in filtering through the dating profile. And there are plenty of women that you can find that are open to that, but you have to be transparent and upfront about it. Many of the other swipe apps people do use for that, i.e. Tinder. I really wouldn't recommend Bumble for it, or Coffee Meets Bagel, because that's not a volume site. I don't know if people are doing this on Hinge or not. I could do some more research. Maybe I'll write another BET.com article.
Yeah, I do know that there was an episode a few weeks ago, Gold Digger and the Sexuality Secret. Wendy Miller gave us a few app examples too for people who are looking for tryout situations.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
So just go back to Dates and Mates for more information.
Also, I will say that my friends who have like successfully found triads just went to a bar and started picking up women together, and then that just kind of more evolved into a relationship.
Yes, and then they have both of you there that they can determine. I actually read a book recently about a woman who gave her husband a threesome for a birthday present. And I think they just put it up on Craigslist or something, and it didn't end up working all that well. They had like a couple of interview situations before, and then they were like, okay, this girl, and then it was good until it wasn't, and then they couldn't get her out of the house. It could go very wrong, so you want to tread lightly. Okay.
I feel like giving your husband a threesome for a birthday will, like, I don't know, inevitably always go wrong, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Well, it got her a book deal, so
yeah.
There's trade-offs. This one also comes to us from Instagram. This person asks, what's the best type of date for a situationship? Ask her for coffee, movie, or dinner. Now let's define situationship, which we talked about situationships last week on the show, but situationship is like, this is someone you're kind of dating, but it may not really be serious. Maybe for you, maybe for them. You're not trying to wine and dine this person. You're just trying to hang and maybe get it in a little bit. Right? So why
Yeah.
dinner? Why would you have dinner for a situationship? Dinner is for someone that you really are wanting to connect to on an emotional level and maybe impress or build a relationship with. So now we're at coffee, which is just the lowest form of connection, or a movie. Again, if you've already been on a date with this person and you already have a little bit of a rapport and you know where it's headed, then a movie is fine. A movie is a good way to say, I want to be close to you, I want to build connection with you, but we don't necessarily need to spend a lot of time talking.
Yeah, I always do movie too. That's a good.
For your situationships?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't want to do it though for a first date or a second date. It's only once you've been in it for a little while. Coffee though, coffee is great for a first online date, moving off of the app. But I don't know that's going to earn you any points. Like if you're going to do coffee for a situationship and you just really want to hook up, you might as well just invite her over for a drink instead. What do you think, Producer Leah?
Netflix and chill.
That's it. Netflix and chill. Okay, one more that came to us from email. You know, you can email me your questions, Damona@DamonaHoffman.com, or even just go to datesandmates.com and there's a contact me form that you can fill out and send me your question that way. This person says, I've casually dated after a serious relationship that turned toxic and have met a guy who I'm interested in. When we're together, everything feels natural and easy, but when we're apart, I convince myself he's not interested or that it won't work. What can I do to control my anxiety over this relationship? Is it a sign that I'm not ready for a relationship after the toxic one? I quit the toxic relationship 4 months ago, but it's been 2 since we last spoke. Whew. Producer Leah, there's a lot in here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. First, I have to say, your relationship past does not have to be your relationship future. And if you're just even taking the time to assess why you had a toxic relationship before, you're already halfway there to changing the pattern and not reliving that. But if you obsess about it, or if you let fear drive your decision, like fear that it's going to happen to you again, then I hate to say it, but you're going to keep repeating the same pattern over and over again. So let's look at the facts. You're with somebody that feels really natural and easy. And if it's natural and easy, can we just let it be easy? Can we let it be good without feeling like things are all going to go terrible again just because that happened in the past? You want to see if this person is who he really says he is, if he shows up for you when he says he's going to. And if so, give him the benefit of the doubt and give him the dignity of having his own life that doesn't necessarily align with what has happened in the past, right? Because if we start to like overlay things that somebody else did on this person, it's going to make him feel like he doesn't have agency over his own choices, and you want to give him the respect of the same kind of respect that he's given you so far in the relationship.
Right. Yeah. And also, I've been kind of in this situation before where I was just having a lot of anxiety for, I don't know, I just like was overthinking things when we were apart. And I actually ended up like talking through it with my therapist and like working through it myself, just because like I knew that it really had nothing to do with the relationship I was in currently. It was just something like me working myself up. So
yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that. And, you know, I'm a big fan of therapy, and it's different than dating coaching. This is really what I do is dating strategy, but I think it's a great 1-2 punch to also be doing therapy.
Cover all your bases.
Yeah. So you can come to your next relationship whole. And look, we all have anxiety, some people more than others. I totally get it. So I don't want to downplay the fact that you're dealing with anxiety, and depression can be very powerful emotions that drive our actions. But like I said, if you are at least acknowledging it, recognizing it, and feeling what's coming up for you, then you have a choice right now. Remember, you have a choice, and you can choose to let the anxiety lead the way you behave in this relationship and the decisions that you make, or you can choose to let that live in the past and to move forward with your life. I think that's a great place to end today's show, producer Leah.
Yeah, totally.
Why don't we put up all the links for today's show in the show notes at datesandmates.com. I hope you enjoyed episode 284 of Dates and Mates. I'm at Damona Hoffman on all of the socials. Please join in the conversation and send me your questions for future episodes. And by the way, we have a special extra gift from Susan Ibitz, our guest for today. She is giving away a 30-minute consultation with her. Yes, you can get a face reading for yourself or for someone that you're dating to figure out if it's a good match or not. And it's all free to one lucky person. All you have to do is share this episode on the social media platform of your choice and tag me at Damona Hoffman. I'm literally on every social media platform as at Damona Hoffman. Not Snapchat. Don't tag me on Snapchat. But Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you want to share this episode, please share it with a friend and then make sure you tag me, and that will get you a chance to win a 30-minute consultation with Susan. You can tag me all the way through December 1st at 11:59 p.m. Pacific. And I will choose one lucky winner at random from all the people who have entered on December 2nd. All you have to do, share the episode, tag me, and you could win that 30-minute free consultation with Susan. Face reading for you, face reading for someone you're dating, face reading for both of you. I think it's a good deal, producer Leah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for y'all.
Well, and I'm also excited that next week we have a Dear Damona episode coming your way. You have sent in so many amazing questions that we had to dedicate an entire episode to it. So tune in next week. We'll be back here Monday morning, bright and early. Until then, I wish you happy dating.